Hi, this is Janelle Posey Green, and you're listening to Bohemian Black Girl Podcast on Green Ink Radio.
Hi, Trisha.
Hi, Janelle. How are you?
Hello. It's so awesome to finally get to sit, chat, catch up with you.
Yes. Awesome. So glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Can you please formally introduce yourself and introduce the program that you have?
Definitely. So my name, as you all know, is Trisha Smith. My area of expertise is holistic medicine. I have been a registered nutritionist for over 13 years now. I also have certifications in herbology, Reiki healing, and life coaching. I've spent a little over a decade helping a plethora of women, from all walks of life with all different ailments and disease, from hypothyroidism to diabetes, and just helping them, reverse those diseases and balance the mind, body, and spirit. I also have expertise in occult healing. I've spent many years with shamans and spiritual teachers, and I've learned to intertwine, those modalities to really bring healing full circle. I have a Stress to Success program that I have recently launched, which again really brings my healing full circle, where I hold a 6-week online intensive for spiritually minded women. What happens is that we meet once a week in video chat in a very small, intimate group so we can get the mind share and support of others. And what we do is we go through all the aspects of healing. So we spend 2 weeks on mental health, 2 weeks on physical health, and 2 weeks on spiritual health. And in the end, what you get is, being able to manage your stress, being able to really find peace, clarity, purpose, just being fearless, courageous, and learning how to overcome obstacles in your life with clarity and just moving forward in a meaningful way. I'm also the founder of Adira Herbals, which is an artisan product line that focuses on topical applications and herbal remedies for stress-related conditions. That's
amazing, sis. That's amazing. I love it. Love it. Love it. Where were the different cultures that those particular shamans and healers came from?
Yeah, so the shamans that I studied with and studied from were mainly in Africa, specifically. Specifically Shaman Malidoma Somé. He is from Ghana, from a remote city called Burkina Faso. Practicing the Dagara way of life. So I spent some time with him, which was amazing. Then there is Dr. Mitchell Gibson and his wife, Asari Gibson, who is actually located here in America. Studied with him for many years as well. Very, very enlightened being. He's taught me a lot. And but I mean, my knowledge really comes from many different places. I started my journey with the Rastafari religion, actually, over 12 years ago. Yeah, and I was going through the whole Rastafari culture and faith, and I think being a part of that really opened up my eyes to something beyond myself, the unseen, and just a traditional African way of life, through healthy eating, through ritual practices and being out in nature and beating the drums and things like that. And I think from there, things just evolved into where I am now.
The one thing I really love and I find the most beneficial about our own cultural innate practices that come from Africa are the fact that we infuse music, our eating, and dance along with our minds to be able to kind of look at a bigger picture of wellness. So I love how you've studied with different techniques from different parts of Africa, not just kind of lumping it all together. Because a lot of times we will say, oh, African spirituality, and it's a very broad term. There's so many different things under that umbrella. So thank you for, I was going to ask you actually real quick is, can you define occult? Because I don't know if everybody will understand what that actually means.
Definitely. So I actually went on the internet and got the textbook definition, and then I'll give you my definition afterwards. So the textbook definition says supernatural, mystical, or magical beliefs, practices, or phenomena. An example of that would be voodoo, witchcraft, Wicca, things of that nature, which isn't totally off, but I feel like it's really missing the substance of what occult is. So for me, the occult is really discovering the hidden healing powers and alternative purposes and uses of the elements and things around us to use them as a form of magic to heal, protect, and better our lives. So things like voodoo, witchcraft, Kabbalah, Wicca, these are all examples of, exploring and drawing upon those hidden healing powers and using them to uplift yourself. And also simple things like meditation is a form of occult, sound healing, mantras. Those are all examples of magical and inexplainable things that happen when we put these practices in place.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like if people can wrap their mind and truly believe in the power of prayer, then this shouldn't be much far-fetched for those who typically want to, have a harder time understanding why there is this whole stigma around occult, specifically African spiritual practices and healing techniques. So, yeah, I love your definition, actually, a lot better than the textbook. I just do. You could tell you really love what you do and you live it. So how does the occult and mental illness intertwine?
Well, when we take a look at who we are, and not just, you're Janelle, I'm Trisha, but the core of who we really are, that is unseen. We say mind, body, and spirit. So 2 out of 3 of those things are unseen, the mind and the spirit. The spirit, the soul are mental. So in order to really balance these aspects of who we are, we have to use the contrasting counterparts, which is the unseen. So it's just like saying, you can't bring a knife to a gunfight. You know what I mean? You got to bring a gun to a gunfight. So, and it's the same thing where, you can't bring an apple to the soul. You have to bring its contrasting counterpart, which is the unseen, to the soul to heal the soul. So our base is in the spirit world. That's who we are, because we're not just physical beings alone. What's really driving our physical bodies is our soul and our spirit. We are an extension of that spirit, and that part of us is connected to the Creator. So the occult is really what helps open up that channel into that world. So it's really important to understand that when dealing with mental health, that the occult is really at the foundation of helping heal that mental health, because that's the catalyst or the amplifier that's going to help open up those gateways and those channels to target the mental, to target the spirit, to target the soul, to reconnect with the universe, to help bring balance to that aspect of yourself.
Yes, I mean, I agree with that. You can't. That's like going to see, for instance, if your leg was broken, you wouldn't come see me as a licensed clinical social worker. I could talk about how much pain you might be in. I might be able to help you with some mindfulness techniques. But as far as truly getting you the support you need, you're going to need that modality to fix your leg. So I agree with you. You're going to need tools that are going to address the proper tools to address what is going on. So if you are having a spiritual issue, you need spiritual tools. So yes.
And so what's happening now is that because a lot of people don't want to embrace the occult, they're using other things to stimulate their mind to help them. So they'll turn to drugs, they'll turn to alcohol. And again, all of these things break down the blood-brain barrier in the brain, which help alter your mind, alters your spirit. So we know humanity knows that something needs to be done to, help target that mental and spiritual aspect of himself. They're just going about it the wrong way, which is unfortunate. And again, because of the stigma that we're going to talk about later.
What would a person who is interested in healing or addressing their mental illness do to tap into the occult?
Well, I think the first thing that someone can do is to first open up the phone lines, for lack of a better word. We need to establish communication with spirit. And we need to do this through sacred space creation or having an altar. Because what the altar does is it lets the universe know that you're serious. Number one, it lets spirit know that you are ready to heal. And it also provides a place of refuge for you to go to really work on that part of yourself. Just like, you go into therapy. You leave your home, you go to the office, you sit down in the office. It's a comfortable space. They make you lay down or sit up or get comfortable. And then you start to speak to that counselor. So it's the same way. You need to create a space where you can go, just like how they have spaces of churches and mosques and, synagogues. Yeah. You have to create a sacred space where you can meet spirit, where you can meet the universe or God or whatever you would like to call that higher power, him or her. You need to create that space. So the basics of that, very, very simple. You can get a wooden table, bookshelf, closed cabinet, whatever you have. It doesn't have to be something that you're spending hundreds of dollars on. Spirit knows your heart. They know how much money you got in your pocket, so you work with what you have to begin. I know with me, I used my son's old armoire that he grew out of until I was able to afford something better, which I have now, which is amazing. But again, start with what you have. A little wooden table, a candle, representation of the divine. And that would be the single most important thing on your altar. So that could be anything, whether it be a picture of Jesus, whether it be a picture of a baby to represent purity and innocence, whether it be an angel to represent the heavens, whatever it is, it's just a representation and not necessarily the image of the divine. It's just a representation of. So, a lot of people kind of get confused with that. It's just symbolism.
Yeah, and ancestor altars. I was going to say ancestor altars. At least for my culture, I can speak to this only. Have pictures of our relatives.
Exactly. I was going to mention that as well. Yeah. I have pictures of my relatives on my altars because it's very, very important to help your ancestors. When you help your ancestors, they in turn are able to help us. So once you have all the elements down on that table, so a flame, water, a vessel for food, pictures of your ancestors. If you don't have pictures, even having a little book with their names and birth dates, if you have them in there, that will suffice if you're not able to get pictures. And of course, ancestor money. So you would go to that altar, use that altar for meditation, doing rituals where you're going to pray, give your offerings. It's really just creating a sacred space. It's almost like an outward projection of your soul, if that makes any sense. That's your altar. Beautiful. Take care of your altar. You respect your altar. You pray at your altar. You meditate. You talk to God at your altar. You're in essence nourishing the very essence of who you are. You're nourishing your spirit in doing that.
That's so beautiful. I love how you connected, how that's an outward expression of what's going on inside. Just like if you're feeling all messy inside, please keep your altar straight, clean, change out the water every 7 days, things like that. So now we are at stigma. So everything that you just said, I feel like maybe because the way I grew up, so okay, those of you who don't know, I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. So the way I grew up is probably very different than most people that are of color in the United States, because we for centuries have intertwined the occult, spiritual, voodoo, hoodoo, with Christianity, specific Catholicism. So for me, growing up, there was no other way of thinking. This is just the way it is. It wasn't until I became an adult and we moved, or actually, I'm sorry, a little older, and we moved from Louisiana as almost a middle schooler, that I realized like not everybody practices their spirituality this way. And then there's stigma behind the way we practice. You know, Trisha, I want to ask you, what do you think it is? Like, I have my own thoughts and experiences of why there's stigma, but I would like you to, you know, chime in. What do you think is going on?
Well, being over here in living in Toronto, Canada, and just from my experiences, I would say that it was beaten out of us. I say that before slavery, we were sages, we were shamans, we were witches, we were medicine men and medicine women. We had a very deep connection with God, deep connection with nature, and deep connection with spirit or deities, loas or rishas, whatever you'd like to call them.
Yep.
You know, and when that transition came of slavery, we were looked upon as barbaric, primitive, evil, practicing dark magic just because of the ignorance of the white man not understanding what we were doing and the level of harmony that we were in, not only with ourselves, but with and so I feel like, you know, during slavery, it was beaten out of us. We were raped, we were killed, even if we were caught practicing any form of spirituality, whether it was chanting, dancing, you know, creating some sort of magical concoction, or even praying to our deities. It was beaten out of us. And when you really look back at it, this went on for 400 years. You know, the average lifespan is about 80 to 90 years. So this was generation after generation after generation of children growing into slavery and, you know, not really being able to see the trueness of who we really are, our culture, of who we are at our core, but rather being told to accept Christianity, you know, where slavery was unfortunately justified in the Bible. And because of that, Black people were kept inferior. They were kept uneducated and really believing that the white man was superior and slavery was the will of God. So when you fast forward to today, to, again, going through even more generations and more generations of Black children, or not even Black children, just people in general that are just lost, when it comes on to the occult, we've forgotten who we are. And that's not any fault of our own. You know, it's really just history playing out itself. And what's happened now is that Hollywood has done an amazing job, Janelle, an amazing job to ensure that we do not remember who we are. And if we do remember, that we stay far away from it. I don't know if you remember those movies like, you know, Hocus Pocus and The Craft and Eve's Bayou. And they have, yeah, and they have one out on Netflix now, Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Yeah, Eve's Bayou was a very powerful movie, but you know, it's unfortunate because
it's
every time they play out
surrounding it.
Exactly. Every time you see the occult, every time you see voodoo and hoodoo, it's played out in a negative role. You see a dreadlocks man rattling something in his hand in some dark place where he's working with monkey heads and blood sacrifice, and you know what I mean? And people are like, ooh, what kind of voodoo is that? You know what I mean? So, you know, all of this, it gets into our subconscious. You know, it gets into our subconscious mind that we don't even realize. So the minute you say the word voodoo, people automatically think, oh my God, wickedness. Oh, she's going to cast a spell on me. Oh, evil, black magic. You know, without even knowing that voodoo is one of the most beautiful religions I have ever come across. Oh, my heart is warmed. I've read a couple books on voodoo, and I tell you, Janelle, their religion is one of the most beautiful, one of the most sacred, one of the most, I don't even have words.
I don't even really know how to describe it, because unless you're from Louisiana, New Orleans area, or from the Caribbean, it's hard to explain the way we've had our spiritualities intertwined. But I agree with you. Voodoo is very, very powerful. It's very beautiful. It will allow you to feel centered. It will allow you to feel empowered and then want to empower the people around you. I want to speak to this, that I think that it's important that maybe if someone started to look into more African practices, I would say go and visit my home. I mean, we had this Congo Square where like how you said that people were beaten for practicing in Congo Square. Have you ever heard of Congo Square?
I haven't.
In New Orleans? Congo Square is basically our version of sacred land, but it's right next to Louis Armstrong Park. And there's a beautiful monument of our ancestors there, because that's where my ancestors used to practice voodoo and all the other types of African spiritual practices on Sundays. So when the French and Spanish settlers of Louisiana were going to their Catholic churches, my people would go to Congo Square and practice our spiritual practices. To this day, if you ever go, please go there first. It's powerful to just know that 400 or 500 years ago, there were our people practicing and doing, and that's why we were able to keep it alive. Of course, because it's a big money buyer down there. You have all these mom and pop shops that are fake. They're there for your money. But, if you ever really wanted to learn, I feel like a lot of they appreciate it a little more in that specific area than other areas because of the intertwining of the cultures.
No, I was going to say that's beautiful, and it's a blessing that you were able to grow up in such an environment where these things were intertwined, and where, you didn't grow up with that stigma, but grew up seeing it and understanding it as the norm, So I'm definitely going to take a trip to New Orleans, and I will definitely be calling you when I get down there.
Yeah, I'm going to take you there, especially if it's in the summer.
Yeah, definitely.
What else is a lot of the stigma I've noticed will sometimes come from our own people. They cleave to Christianity so closely, and I'm not judging. I understand everybody wants a spiritual base, but you don't have to put down one to put up the other. And if you ask them, who do you think your ancestors prayed to? Do you think it was Jesus? They a lot of times get angry.
Yeah, definitely. And again, I just think it's the systematic brainwash, and I think that Black people are so diehard for Christianity because it's in our blood to be spiritual people. And because they don't know who they are, they don't know, what we practice, and seeing that as the ultimate healing, modality, that they have to draw upon whatever's given to them. And unfortunately, it was, I don't want to say unfortunately, because there's a lot of great Christian people out there, and each to his own. Not here to put down any religion whatsoever.
There are some beautiful aspects of Christianity.
Yeah, definitely. So, but it's that all of that strength and that power and that dedication and that priestly devotion that was used when we practice our own religion of African spirituality has now been transferred over to Christianity, which is why Black people are so diehard. They will get mad at you. They will cuss you. They will lie down in the, in the street in the name of Jesus, and it's, again, if that's what brings you happiness and that has made you become a better person, then I'm all for it. None of us are here to walk, all of us to walk the same exact road. But I feel like it's so important for Christians, especially Black Christians, Black Muslims, Black people in general, to begin to embrace, even if they don't want to practice, to embrace and acknowledge, what our ancestors did and things that they did to be so at peace with themselves. Because our community is falling apart. You know what I mean? The rate of single mothers is skyrocketing. The rate of drug addiction is skyrocketing. The rate of alcoholism is skyrocketing. The Black community, we're losing ourselves because we have no foundation to draw upon. You know what I mean? And we started to develop this urban culture, which is beautiful, the whole urban culture, which we've now called our own and has developed over the years, which is very beautiful. But again, in terms of substance and healing, it's not there, So I think that dismay or that disconnect that Black people have with themselves right now is because they do not embrace the occult.
Yeah, I agree. I'm actually glad that you had brought up urban culture. Being in these inner cities, it's hard to be connected to good nutrition. A lot of the inner cities have nutritional food deserts. What is the connection between nutritional healing and mental wellness?
Well, that's a really good question. There is a big connection between nutrition and mental wellness, and what it really comes down to is our hormones. So right now with the foods, we have genetically modified foods. We have foods that are containing pesticides and excess hormones. All of these things are hormone disruptors. Things like phytoestrogens and parabens and dyes and pegs, all of these ingredients that you see in processed food, in unsaturated oils and things of that nature. All of those things disrupt our hormones. So they'll actually cause hormone deficiency, increase the production of the hormone, or mimic the hormone itself. And what this does is that it interacts, or it gets in the way of our serotonin and dopamine production. And those are like what I like to call our happy hormones. So when we're deficient in serotonin and dopamine, we're actually more prone to things like depression, to sadness, to anger.
Yeah.
So we have to start to incorporate more of a whole foods diet, and to stay away from the birth control pill, from the pharmaceutical drugs, from the mainstream tampons and pads that women are wearing now. Yeah, those are huge hormone disruptors. If you notice that our community, the rate of fibroids and cysts are increasing dramatically, and that's because of the excess hormones that are now in our meat. So again, living in an inner city, it is definitely not as easy to access clean and good food, but it is still accessible, and what it really boils down to is whole foods. So getting your fruits, your vegetables, your grains, your healthy fats, and your clean water, and just ensuring that you're cleaning your vegetables properly, that you're drinking herbs,
How would you clean your vegetables properly? I actually have a spray that I bought from this place called Fiddleheads out here, where it's basically like citric acid that washes it. But is there something, I've also heard of putting apple cider vinegar and letting them sit for a while. Are those proper ways?
So you can do citric acid, apple cider vinegar, baking soda. You can get a little scrub brush if you don't have any of those things, and just scrub it under water, squeeze a little bit of lemon on it, and then just scrub it with the scrub brush to get all the waxes and things off of it. And again, there's no fruit or vegetable that's going to be 100% squeaky clean. But getting most of it off will definitely be beneficial. And these whole foods have naturally occurring serotonin and dopamine, so things like pineapples and nuts and freshwater fish, all of those things will help your body create those hormones that will increase your mood. But if you're, always eating McDonald's and Burger King and fried chicken and fries and, smoking cigarettes and drinking alcohol, all of these things create deficiencies in these hormones. And even if you're stressed, when you're experiencing long-term stress, it increases our cortisol level. Yeah, and when our cortisol levels is increased, it really starts to wreak havoc on our blood sugar. It wreaks havoc on our thyroid. So it really is a precursor to a lot of other diseases, digestive issues, whether it be Crohn's or colitis, gastroesophageal reflux disorder, heartburn, things of that nature. All of that is related to stress and pharmaceutical drug intake. So it's really important, again, which is why the program is so key, because it's about balancing not just how you eat, but balancing the mind, balancing the spirit, because all of that intertwines into your health as a whole being.
I also love how you educate on why these foods. Like how you mentioned, like apple has natural serotonin, and it'll help you, with that, that level, raising your levels that you might need so you're less depressed. I love that. I think that's also very important. If someone is seeking a good program, I really recommend hers. So, if someone had to, grow their own, like say you live in an area where some of these things that you mentioned are probably not available, or at least available enough. What is maybe a few things that are herbs or plants that a person could grow on their own, like a smaller one, like something that can either put in a windowsill or out on a patio?
Alfalfa. The herb alfalfa is amazing. They could just grow the sprouts or the plant. Very, very easy to grow. And the thing with alfalfa, it is so dense in trace minerals. And minerals is something that I would say this whole world is lacking because our soil is so depleted. So alfalfa, number one. Another easy leafy green to grow would be something like chard. Kale, your leafy lettuces. It really depends on the environment, because here in Canada I can only grow so much because it gets cold very quickly. So I would really say that it depends on where you are. Go to your local market. First do some research of where you are, how long your summers are, see what vegetables can be grown. And honestly, so long as you're growing something, you know what I mean? Because again, we're not able to grow everything depending on where in the world we live. So long as you're growing something, you're aware of the soil that it's in, you're not using any pesticides, that in itself is going to be nourishing to the body. I always like to recommend supplements as well, kind of as like a supplementation if we're not getting everything that we need in our diet. But yeah, the alfalfa, the leafy greens, tomatoes are amazing. Thyme, THYME, is also a really, really nice herb and spice filled with dense nutrients. If you live in a place like mine, then a lot of root vegetables grow very well here in Canada. So squash and potatoes and turnips and things of that nature are very good to be grown over here. So yeah, I would definitely just make the effort, see what's out there in your area, see what you can get a hold on in terms of seeds. Ensure that you get those alfalfa. I would say that's number one. And then just grow whatever else that you're capable of growing in your environment.
Yeah. Hit up those farmers markets. We have farmers markets out here in the summertime. Nice. They're really awesome. At the local farm.
Totally. It's always great. Farmers markets, it's local, coming off of your land, and it's not you're sitting in a truck for 3 days before it gets to you. So, yeah.
So what rituals do you think would be helpful? I know we just, spoke about food, but what rituals would be helpful in reducing stress and depression?
Well, for somebody that's just getting into the occult and they're not too familiar with certain things, the first and foremost, I would say, is meditation. As as cliche as that may sound, because everybody's meditating nowadays, and meditate. It really is key. Meditation quiets your mind. It's not only beneficial to your mental health, but it's beneficial to your physical health as well. So I would say to just sit. Just be still. Sit down on a chair, plant your feet on the ground, put your hands right above your knee or on your knee, face down. Close your eyes, breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. If you're not able to sit, if you have back problems, lay down on the bed or on the floor. Be comfortable. Put your hands, don't let your hands touch your body. Again, put your feet apart and do the same thing. Close your eyes, breathe in with your nose, breathe out through your mouth, and focus on the top of your head. Focus on something until you're able to focus on your breath, and just learn to clear your mind and still your mind. And that in itself will help balance out hormones. It'll help balance out your digestion. It'll help with bowel movements, and it'll really help bring clarity, because a lot of people that suffer from mental illness don't have clarity, and meditation brings clarity. Sound healing. Sound healing is amazing. I will definitely recommend some different sounds that I listen to later on. But sound healing is one of the easiest things you can do. Do it while you're meditating. Do it before you go to bed. Do it, while you're in the office at work. Just turn on certain sounds that resonate at a certain megahertz that brings healing energy. Yeah, and that will resonate and vibrate with your cellular form and help balance out your energy.
Absolutely. I love all of that. That's things that I actually practice myself, and I teach my clients to do as well. You're amazing.
Definitely.
And last, what are some books or just readings that someone, if they really want or hungry for knowledge, that they can read to kind of give more information?
Definitely. So if you're kind of skeptical about, the occult and magic and things of that nature, I would highly recommend reading Malidoma Some's biography. It's called Of Water and the Spirit. That book is amazing, and it really just gets into, the magic of Africa. And again, it's him speaking in his own words about his own experiences and things that he went through, and just all of the magic that he witnessed growing up as a child, and where it brought him today. Another great book by Malidoma as well is called The Healing Wisdom of Africa. If you feel like you're ready to participate in, hands-on ritual and things of that nature, The Healing Wisdom of Africa is a great place to start. There's another book called The Secrets of Voodoo by Milo Regard. That is a great book if you want to learn a little bit more about voodoo and, just really understand the religion and how it works. There's another one called The Voodoo Shaman by Ross Heaven. That's a great, great book on voodoo as well. And it unlike The Secrets of Voodoo, The Voodoo Shaman actually gives you hands-on techniques and rituals that you can start to incorporate in your daily life. What else is there? There's a whole bunch.
I think that's good. I mean, Where can someone find you? Where can our listeners find you if they have questions or they want to ask for more information or even join your program? Where can our listeners connect with you?
So they can check out my website at adiroherbals.com, www.adiroherbals, A-D as in dog, E-R as in Robert, O, herbals with an S.com. They can check me out on Instagram at adiro_herbals_. I'm on Facebook at Adiro Herbals, and I'm also on YouTube at Adiro Herbals. So I'm all over.
Oh,
and you can...
cool.
Yeah, you can even send me an email at adiroherbals@icloud.com if you have a question, or you could just send me a message on any of those social media platforms.
Very, very awesome. I'm so excited that we had this conversation. I'm sure this is just one of many more to come.
Yes.
And, you've definitely dropped a lot of knowledge on us today, and I'm very grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for creating the platform for people like me to speak and to share. So I appreciate you as well, sister.